I would like to first thank everyone for being here. I would like to thank Provost Simpson and also Terry for co-sponsoring this through Kettle and Provost's office. And this is truly an honor for me to be presenting this talk, and I hope I will meet your expectations based on the great introduction that Terry presented here. So basically, I would like to also thank the fantastic team of physics that my credential to stand in front of you reflects faculty, staff, students, alum, and advisory board. Otherwise, what is listed there would have not been accomplished without a great team there. I want to tell you how I got here, basically. And to start with, I took a plane, basically. So in 1978, I was a student in University of Tehran, the oldest university in Iran. I was an undergrad and decided to come to US. What was the reason? Was higher education in US, basically. In 1994, I had three options in terms of job options. Two of them were in colleges with physics program and one without physics program. And everyone told me I'm making a mistake to go to program school that has no physics program. And that was then GMI. But the reason I came here was the excitement of being part of the team that could build something different. And we have proven that one, basically. And now I'm turning my U-Haul back toward the east, going to Loyola University of Maryland in Baltimore. For those of you who told me, wish me luck in Chicago, I'm not going to Chicago. I'm going to Baltimore, which is ranked number 2 in regional universities north, based on US News and World Report. And there I'm going to have the chance to work with physics, math, statistics, computer science, biology, chemistry, biochemistry, and engineering sciences, which is mechanical, electrical, computer, and materials engineering. So if you look at the history of higher education, if this is a Voyage, if you look at that one, if you look at 17th century, how people were learning, there were some schools that started, and there was a specific need there, basically. And the need was the knowledge and social status. No one was hiring anyone with a degree from college at that point. That was not the reason people were going to college, basically. And before that, people were learning through informal education, apprenticeship, which was a cycle that we try to mimic now in higher education, which is try, fail, get feedback, and have that formative feedback in terms of learning. In 18th century, there were some new additional schools that started, and we had different communities seeking higher status and sense of pride. And those, at that point, the numbers were very small and also low in endowment. Here is a quote from President Garfield, said, "The college president as a teacher in one end of a log, the student on the other." That's what I call it 1-to-1 ratio, teachers to students ratio. In 1785, the right was given to the states to issue the right to start universities. And that made it easier. So there were more and more universities coming along at that point, which led to 19th century college building boom. But in 19th century, the story was a little bit different. While the college boom started, there were religion-based colleges. There were historically black colleges and universities, women's colleges, and Land Grant Act of 1862 and 1890 that addressed the specific need, access to education. But that was done based on different sector of the society. So what happened? It created a piecemeal access to higher education accommodations without complete integration. And that really set the stage for 20th century. This painting is by Norman Rockwell and tell you the story about 20th century anyway, higher education. What you see here is a father and son. The father is a farmer, and the son is trying to go to college. They are looking in two different directions, future and past. The father is grabbing into two hats, one of his and one his son. He doesn't want to let his son to go. And the son is, as you can see, State University, and you can see the rail here waiting for the train to go to school. And that was really the history of 20th century. Things changed. Agrarian culture changed to an industrial culture in a way in terms of education. And what happened that led to what we easily criticize these days, and that was an innovation those days. Model T of education created access. It turned education from an elite experience for less than 5% to a mass education, basically. And the result of that one is we are a different type of creature right now. Our life expectancy at the beginning of 20th century would have been 55, and the end of the century is 80. It truly changed the human. And it changed scientific progress in different fields. But it also created an assembly line education that we easily criticize. So how could we change those? We could do a little bit of things, each of us, to change that, to improve that. It's not that bad if you look at the results. But how do we improve it for today? And if you look at that one, this classroom is, Roxanne is here, and during 2004, 2005, around about that point, there was a underground movement in this school where we're afraid to let others know. Others honestly would have been punished at that point. We had 6 people, Roxanne, myself, and Vida Fisher from University Advancement, with 3 of our colleagues from GIST, Mary Levengood, John Brewmaster, and Larry Kassler. We used to meet once a month at least in Automation Alley. That's when we started the education committee there. And we tried to write grants, and we wrote a grant, and that led to, and then we put some money there, and we raised the rest of it through University Advancement. That led to this classroom. What was the need was to connect our school to K-12. So Nancy have taught that many, many times there, calculus courses. We have taught some physics courses. This is recently, a couple of years ago, we decided to change some space in physics department. And the idea was if we are changing, it should not be just painting on a new floor, basically. That should not be what we should be thinking. Think about this one. If you watch movies, isn't that a form of entertainment? And if you are playing cards, isn't that a form of entertainment? What's the difference between those two? Watching movies is a passive, playing cards is an active. So why not to change the space when we have chance to empower active learning? So if you look at this one, we changed the classroom, we moved the tables from the wall, put it in the middle, and tried to create interaction between the students. Also, we have a classroom we call PALS, Physics Active Learning Studio. And if mechanical engineering makes that one, they have to call it meals. Let's be clear about that. And we created that one, and we failed. I'm so happy to stand in front of you and say we failed in certain part of that. But we didn't get everything that we want to do there. But what happened, the result of this one is that IT just reported that within the next couple of years, they're going to do exactly what we were trying to do there for the whole school. So there is nothing wrong with failing if you're willing to go forward. So if you look at higher education, is really the biggest problem in higher education is that we have too many things there. And our solutions is usually addresses one or the other point, but not everything. And it's very complex. At some point, the need was just to knowledge. That's it. That's easy to achieve that. But this is much more complex. Plus, if you look at expectations of higher education, President Kennedy said, our progress as a nation can be no swifter than our progress in education. The human mind is our fundamental resource. So if that's the case, so the question is, what should be the primary measure of progress for the education in 21st century? And it's not very clear. Many people are talking about that, but what is that? Based on your expectation, you can think about cost, quality, choice, research, teaching, diversity, service, jobs, learning, skills, access, or many other things you can put there. But you have to, as Feynman said, not Feynman said, Kettering said, I showed my physicist part of me, a problem well stated is problem half solved. And the problem is that we have not completely defined the what's the problem of higher education, basically. So if you look at higher education, if you look at that one as an engine of economy and democracy, and if you look at the numbers, things don't look really good in terms of being prepared for that and number of graduates in science and math. The total number is increasing, but they are increasing also, what is increasing is the amount of loans they have at the end, at the time of graduation. If you compare US with China, we can see the gap is changing between US and China. Then the percentage of students who are pursuing science and engineering is less than most of the developed countries. If you look at research, productivity, and industrial and basically high-tech productivity, we are losing the game. But these numbers are not telling you the whole story, because in 1992 there was a study that compared US with Japan. And the study showed that the population of US is 3 times larger than Japan. But the number of graduates in science and engineering are 4 times in Japan compared to US. So if you just go based on numbers, by now Japan should have taken over all US, basically. So it's really is more than that. If you look at, for the students who are here, if you look at, and for us who are for Kettering University thinking ahead, what is the job market, and what you see, all the areas that we are, school like Kettering is involved in science and engineering, there is additional needs. There's a growth between now at least and 2018. Also, the students who will be going through that education between now and 2018, they are much more sophisticated, they are much more segmented, they are larger diversity, and more of homeschool kids. And homeschool kids do not learn by 3rd generation notes. Okay, the 1st generation is when as a faculty I read the book and I make my notes. The 2nd generation is when I copy my notes onto the board. And the 3rd generation is when the students are copying my notes from the board onto their paper. That's not how they learn. They learn differently. Also, there is a numbers for female and male students who are interested in science and engineering is different, percentage-wise. And I'm looking at, I came here, as I said, when I came to US, it was 1978. If you look at the data in 1978 and now, you will see that education cost has increased by 1,120%. And you can compare that with healthcare and food. And there are many theories why that is. And no one really has a clear solution so far. Now, if you look at that one thing you can think about this one, I put 3 areas next to each other. Imaging in medicine, interest in consumer products, and imagination in terms of education. If you look at that one, advancement of technology, what's the impact of advancement of technology? The advancement of technology will reduce the cost of consumer products, computers, your iPhone, whatever. Okay? But advances in technology, what it does, it's going to put pressure on education costs because it's going to introduce new toys. Remember, the first PC was 1981. And the whole thing, increasing cost of education, has started about the same time. There should be some sort of correlation there if you think about that one, basically. And also, there is also confusion about what is the product. In consumers, they know exactly what products are. That's what they are selling. In medicine, they know exactly what it is. Okay, they change your hip, basically. Okay, that's a product. In terms of education, we really don't know what the product is. There's lots of different talks. There is not consensus, a single idea about what is there that we are producing. So with this one in mind, I would like to invite you for a voyage to planet E. And you can call planet E, could be education, could be excitement, could be entrepreneurship, it could be Earth, whatever, okay? And take a minute and design an educational system based on specific needs. First, you have to define the needs, then define it. What would be the desired outcome, and how would you build your team to achieve it? These are necessary for success. Okay? I don't know where in your voyage you are right now, but I have to go to my next slide. So, if learning is what we decided, this is important, after all, it's part of education, then we should think about education as the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. So, does this one look like kindling of a flame? I would argue the answer is no. That is based on American Association of College and University report of 2004. So what should we be looking at? If you look at NESI, the response of what are the high impact learning practices? Then we have 8 of them listed here based on the report from 2008. And I would like to kind of analyze this one slightly different. And I would like to rearrange this one in this form. And being a scientist, engineers, we like to have patterns. Because if you recognize the patterns and common denominators, then we could recognize when the opportunity is in front of us, we could recognize it. Without that, we cannot see the opportunity. That's one of the questions I always ask my students. What's the difference between an idea and opportunity? You can think about it. So what are the common denominators between these? Purpose, autonomy, and mastery. It was interesting. I was discussing this one in one of our very intriguing hallway, because that's what we do in physics. And my colleague, Professor Ludwigson, I said that. He said, "Oh, that's really interesting. That's a book that talks exactly about this one." And I have not read the book. I just wanted, but this is really interesting in terms of because now, you may agree with that or you may not. What I'm trying to do is, what is that pattern? If I recognize that pattern, I could come out with new practices, basically. So there are also, at the same time, there are advances in technology. And advances in technology changes the way we learn. And this is based on a report from 2006. And these are the elements there. Low barriers, basically. Strong support, formal mentorship, sense of direction, sense of ownership, strong collective sense that something is at stake. This is what Ken Bain was referring to, that they care. Students should care if they want to learn. That's one of the elements. Otherwise, they are not going to learn. So could we incorporate this one into our education, basically? And the answer is yes. There are inquiry-based learning. There's virtual labs. There are leveraging the crowd. This is done by by Eric Mazur, peer instruction. He's a physicist from Harvard University. And interesting enough, I was in a workshop with my good colleague, Professor Savinovich. And Mazur, I told him about what we do at Kettering. During lunch, he takes me, he said, come on here. And he introduced me to Wyman, who is the Nobel laureate from University of Colorado. And he said, you should hear what these guys are doing at Kettering University. It's amazing. Okay? And that's by a leader in the field talking to another leader in the field. So you should be aware of the strength of the institution. There are also there are also social tools, basically, that you can construct your ideas. And okay, like blogs and wiki. So now there is another question. There is an elephant in the higher education, and that's called MOOCs. You know what MOOCs is? Massive open online courses, right? And people talk about that. And some people think they have different ideas. Some people said MOOCs are replacement for books. And some people say it's a disruptive technical innovation that could control the cost of higher education. And some people say it's the latest business model for high volume, low margin information technology opportunity. So you can think about what it is. But we should have a metrics to look at that one. We cannot just have an opinion without a metrics. Okay? So, to MOOC or not to MOOC? That's a question, right? Okay. MOOC will allow, let's just think about this one. We have a fantastic crash safety lab. And if we develop something based on that crash safety lab and beam it out there, we will reach people everywhere in the world. In India, in China, maybe in Detroit, who never have heard about us. And suddenly, we create name recognition, first of all. The second thing, we provide education for those who otherwise will not go through formal form of education. They don't need a degree, they just want to learn. Okay. Now, will it be a silver bullet? Will it be a stage lecture without feedback? And that's what, by the way, University of Phoenix does. They have, if you have seen them talk, I'll refer to that one, that they actually have models. They don't put students there, they put models in the room when they present the talk. And they tell them to interact, react like they are very engaged, basically. So they could. Another version of online course, a short-lived trend, a new hybrid pedagogy, just another tool, or something else. One thing about lecture, if the whole thing is about lecturing, many of the universities, they don't even require that you go to the lecture. That was not even part of the equation, like Oxford and Cambridge. So the learning is not just a lecture. So, what are the metrics? What do we use to analyze MOOCs? This is my cheat sheet, 2008 report, and they said attend to underlying meaning, integrate and synthesis, so on and so forth. You can read it better than me. The question is, if MOOCs achieves those, then we have a high learning practice. We cannot deny it. And if it doesn't, then we cannot accept that as our core business. I'm adding one more thing. Would it satisfy purpose, autonomy, and mastery? I would say definitely it satisfies autonomy. But I'm not sure about purpose and mastery. I don't know whether it achieves that. At least at this form. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in the future. There is a book. Actually, I got an email from Doug Melton. Perhaps some of you got this one also. He referred to a video and he referred to this book. So if you look at this book, The Innovative University by Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School and Henry Eyring from BYU, Idaho. And they wrote that one, and they think about, they said in education we have to think about disruptive technologies. And disruptive technology does not mean that they have to be at highest quality. They could start with the low quality, but they're going to reach that quality. They're going to take the market, basically. They gave some examples. For example, vacuum tube versus solid state devices. There are still people who are trying to improve vacuum tube, make it a little bit better. And there were another group that said, forget about this one, we're going to do with solid state devices. And that was end of vacuum tube. So they said that online learning is a classic disruptive innovation, initially of lower quality than traditional face-to-face. Well, the problem with this argument they have is they apply it to business school and law school, but not really in STEM fields. So I should tell you what all the examples that they have is from those. But they refer to university to have 3 different business models at the same time. And they refer to that fee for service, fee for outcome, and fee for membership. Consulting firms are doing fee for service. Research in the university could do the same thing. Basically, that's what it does, the same thing. Manufacturing is that you take something, you do something with it, you get something else. We get high school kids. We hopefully help them to learn. And they become someone better than when they came in, basically, to the school. So basically, their point is that not everyone could be Harvard because Harvard has big endowment. They could do everything for every degree and all of them. And they are saying the cost, controlling the cost, requires that you focus your attention to what is your core business and do that, basically. Some of the things it was interesting, they were suggesting, these were innovative ideas. School should be open year-round. Have you heard about such school? No sports teams. They said, okay. I don't know how could you build that university. They're saying to focus on online and embrace online learning, but they say one thing that is very questionable at this point is they're saying commoditizing teachers to reach greater audience, basically. So I was thinking, what does it mean commoditize, okay? This glass is a commodity. There is no innovation left in this. I could go and make millions and millions of those. This is a commodity, okay? Now I want to commoditize teachers, okay? How do I do that one? Is it possible? We have to think about the whole education. First of all, could it be done for STEM? And second thing is, what do we mean by education? Is it really the teachers are the owners of the knowledge? Or the knowledge is there. Teachers just help the student to get from one stage to another. If you think about data, you put a bunch of data together, you create information. You put a bunch of information together, you create knowledge. You put a bunch of knowledge together, you create some mastery or expertise that will allow you to do synthesis, evaluation, creation of new ideas and new products. Now, if the faculty value is to be this one, owner of the knowledge or owner of the information, they could be commoditized. If they are the one who enable the process, they cannot. How many of you are here and doing what you are doing because at some point in your life, a teacher impacted you? Okay? I mean, how do you commoditize that? So, go back to the same question. To MOOC or not to MOOC, right? That's a question, right? I would say this one. The answer is this. Have a presence at the present. What does it mean? It means play with it. Okay? It's a new sandbox. Play with it. You learn something in the process. What it does when you learn from that, when the technology improves and MOOC could be, or online could be a viable approach for STEM, then you are ready. You're going to be a leader. You're not going to be behind the curve. So that's what I look at. And I don't have the time to tell the story, but I came back from a conference. I was totally excited. And based on what I saw there, I could think about Physics 1 lab to go away in 5 years. The whole course be done that you do your lab in your kitchen or in your house or in your cafeteria. There are technologies moving in that direction. Now, what is your Planet E model of higher education? You can decide about your higher education. You can say that your model of higher education is teaching university or research university or something else. You can say faculty is promoted based on their teaching or research or something else. You can say consists of lecture rooms, consists of laboratory, or something else. You can say it's a brick castle with silos or tech silos, like Apple versus Microsoft. Tech silos with clicks or something else. Okay? You can fill in the blank. You can think about that. Fill in the blanks, basically. Because if you can envision that, then you can think about where the higher education should go in the future. So, will your school be, university will be, the way I look at that, we shouldn't think about teaching, we shouldn't be thinking about research, we should be thinking about affordable learning university. If learning is achieved through teaching and classroom activities, if it's achieved through research, or if it's achieved through service learning, or if it's achieved through capstone, or any means, as long as learning is the goal and we achieve it, we should value that, basically. How do we promote faculty? Should be not based on number of papers and how many classes they have taught. It should be how much impact they have had in the students' learning. If you care about learning, you may have a different model. But if that's the point. It should not be lecture rooms and laboratory. It should be flexible learning. If it was for lecture room and laboratory, we would have not tried to create PALs. By the way, how many of you go to Barnes & Nobles or go to a coffee shop to learn? You take your computer there, you take a book or something like that. Okay? And no one tells you to be quiet, right? We have libraries. We have to be quiet. You cannot interact. Okay? There's a tradition in the Bricks University. Will it be silos or should be academically integrated? Okay? We should not only love physics, we should love the whole science and engineering, the STEM, and other areas of knowledge. Philosophy. Physics was part of philosophy at some point, right? If it's learning, it should not be determined by those terms. And it should be affordable and accessible. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It is with great sadness that I give this gift for Dr. Roughani. We will very much miss you as the educational innovator.
Thanks.
I appreciate you sharing your words of wisdom with the campus, and a very small gift on behalf of Kettle as our first educational innovator.
Thanks a lot. Thank you much.
I'm going to miss you.
Thanks.